Shelby Carcelari, City Council Member.
Ronnie Price, Mayor.
Troy Tabor, City Council President.
Greg Schneider, Council Member.
Tim Berry, Council Member.
All right, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Backwards, I did, didn't I? We'll get back to it. All right. First thing first. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we'd like Randy Sexton to do the invocation. Sorry, sir, for me skipping over you.
Okay, please pray with me. Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for your goodness and grace that you show everybody through your creation, through family and friends, and may we ever be grateful for these. We ask that you would bless this meeting, bless those who are willing to serve the people of this community, and grant them wisdom and guidance for all those in positions of authority. Your word tells us that a lack of guidance causes a nation to fall, but victory is won through many advisors. May all present experience that truth. Please bless the people of this city with your grace and protection. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. All right. At this time, we'll open up, am I screaming? Open up for a public forum. If anyone would like to speak, state your name, your address, and we'll go from there. Nobody? All right, onward and upward. Acceptance of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries 6-0. Bonds, Jenny will speak to us about this, correct?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes. Did I skip one?
yeah, I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda items 7.1 through 7.4 as presented.
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm kind of excited tonight. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Now, Ms. McCausland.
Okay, item 8, we're going to try out some new technology from Sparks Funds. We tonight have, I think that looks like, is that you, Dustin?
Hey, Jenny, yes, it is.
All right, it's working perfectly. Dustin Avey, our financial advisor, will present to you items 8.1 and 8.2 related to upcoming bond sales.
Thank you, Jenny. Good evening, everyone. Hope you can hear me okay. Perfect. Thank you for the thumbs up. A couple items on the agenda this evening relate to the sale of the Series B 2020 bonds. And as you may recall from our conversation not too long ago, we actually are looking at potential refinancings of some existing bond issues as a result of interest rates. And as you may recall from our bond sale on the Series A bonds, the results were extremely favorable to the city. And so in light of interest rates and the current environment, we also think it's important to consider the refinancing of some existing bonds for savings opportunities. The bonds that are proposed to be refinanced are the 2012, two series of the 2012 bonds, the 2013 bonds also. The projected savings based upon current interest rates is, make this right page here, about a little less than $150,000 of total savings. Was probably most impressive, and as you may recall, these bonds are actually outstanding at very low interest rates. The rate on these existing bonds is already 2.21%. We just happen to be in as you're aware, a very extremely low interest rate environment, and the projected interest rate after refinancing is right around 1%. For these bonds. The sale is, with your approval this evening, the sale and the bids would be due and accepted on October 27th. And again, there obviously can be some changes in the market dynamic between now and October 27th. If bids come back that aren't favorable and don't produce enough savings to consider and justify moving forward, we do preserve the ability to reject all those bids at that time. Again, there's still a little bit of time between now and then, and certainly some things may change in the marketplace. But if we were looking at refinancing right now, I think we'd be getting very favorable results. So just want to make sure that the governing body is aware of that objective in terms of being able to reject bids if they're not favorable to the city and to the objective set forth in the savings. This is really also kind of phase 1 of 2 with respect to some financings yet this year. We also will be coming back to you in the next month with respect, or 2 months with respect to the issuance of the Series C 2020 bonds. And those are related to some existing projects that have been financed previously with temporary notes and or the city has funded them internally. We're doing that kind of in conjunction with thinking ahead with respect to potential financings the city may be considering in 2021 and to maximize the amount that the city can issue under the $10 million bank qualified limit. So with the combination of the A bonds, the B bonds, and the C bonds, and factoring in some federal tax law, the city is able to issue bonds for all those projects and do it on a bank qualified basis, which in turn allows the city to secure a lower interest rate than it otherwise would if it was above 10 million. So there is some strategy with separating out these issues. We really need to separate out the B from the C to allow us to what we call designate the refinancing or the B bonds as bank qualified, which allows us to secure lower interest rates. So I'm going to pause there for a minute, Jenny. I know that making sure there's no questions as the governing body considers the action items in front of them.
Dustin, I do have one question. Did you say that the interest rate might be as low as 1%? Is that what I heard?
Yes, sir.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't just refinance 100% of all outstanding bonds? Why would we stop with just these couple?
Yeah, great question. So most bond issues have call dates or prepayment dates. And so the issues that we're considering this evening all have prepayment dates of 2020, which means they can be prepaid at any particular time. If we were to consider other bond issues of the city, those bond issues have prepayment dates other than 2020, so they're 21, 22, and 23. Because of that, there is some inefficiencies with refinancing those bonds because we have to escrow the interest that's due on those bonds between now and the time they're able to be prepaid, number one. And number two is there are some law changes back in 2017 that prohibit what we call an advance refinancing, so refinancing in advance of those prepayment dates. We cannot do that on a tax exempt basis. We have to do it on a taxable basis. And so because they would be taxable bonds, the interest rate on those bonds would be slightly higher than what they'd be on a tax exempt basis, which again, when you run the calculations and look at the bond math, the combination of the taxable nature of the bonds plus escrowing the interest that's due on those bonds between now and the call date doesn't make it efficient at this point in time to consider those other bond issues.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
IT support, gonna bill Craig, just saying.
Okay. 8-2, right? Do we need to do them both, or how do you want?
We do need a motion on each of these,
Okay.
yes.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the resolution authorizing the sale of the $4,365,000 in Series B general obligation refunding bonds and authorizing Piper Sandler to market such bonds.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. 8-2, 2020 Series C bonds ordinance to authorize purchase of fire station land.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt an ordinance authorizing the city to acquire a site for certain public building improvements and authorizing the city to issue general obligation bonds to pay cost of acquisition.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. 9, Meadowlark subdivision, 9-1, accept the plan and authorize the bidding of public improvements. And Rick's going to talk to us about this.
So we have reviewed and are ready to submit for your approval plans for the water, sewer, paving, and stormwater. Usually we bring just the water and sewer, and then later we bring the street and or the storm sewer and paving. But in this particular case, the engineer had them all done, so we're just going to bring them all at one time so that they'll be a little more flexible when they get ready to go bid. We have reviewed them and are ready for you to approve them, and we're going to go out for bid on the water and sewer and have them back at the next council meeting. And then I think in November, early November, we'll bring back the paving and storm sewer for your approval at that time. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd move to accept the plans and authorize the bidding of public improvements for water, sewer, streets, stormwater improvements to serve the Meadowbrook subdivision as presented.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Tuscany Addition, third phase, paving and stormwater bid award.
So the water and sewer on this project, on this subdivision, is nearing completion and should be completed really soon, actually. And the plans at the previous council meeting was authorized, or 2 council meetings ago, was authorized to go out for bid. The bids were opened and read and tabulated, and Meese Construction out of Wichita, Kansas, was the low bidder on this, and for $497,372.06, and we're recommending approval of that bid. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
In regards to locality or location of these companies, do we take that into account when we're accepting the bid as far as if they were local versus a national chain?
So realistically, we do not have a Andover local construction company that does this type of work. Cornejo does have a concrete plant here, but their local office is actually over on Tulsa, I believe, in Wichita, and they are actually a national company owned by Summit Materials. They own I think I looked, 13 different companies nationwide. All these companies have lots of employees, especially when you get into some of their senior managers type positions live in Andover. But no, we do not do that, and especially I think historically we haven't done it on subdivision work because that is passed on to the developer until he sells those lots. And I'm pretty sure the developer is going to want to go with the low bid in these cases.
And then also passed on to
The
the resident as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
purchase it through the specials, yes.
I appreciate that, Rick. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor, I move to accept a low bid from Meese Construction, Kansas for paving and stormwater in Tuscany Addition third phase in not to exceed amount of $497,732.60 and authorize the mayor to sign contract.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Yorktown Parkway Streetscape Conceptual Master Plan, Lance Onstock.
Mr. Mayor, Council. So you guys will remember earlier in 2020, you guys all approved an agreement with MKEC Engineering to develop the Yorktown Parkway Streetscape Conceptual Master Plan. As the road construction finished and as we opened the road, it was a priority of both the council and the staff to bring some more aesthetic attention to this corridor that's running through Andover Central Park. Hence the purpose of this Yorktown Streetscape Master Plan. So this project began with our consultant holding some focused feedback sessions with you all and staff early in the summer. They took that feedback and put that into a draft plan that was presented to the governing body as a whole at the August workshop. At that August workshop, they also presented some preliminary cost estimates for the actual construction of the project. There were no changes requested by either the council or the staff at that August workshop, so the plan that you see presented to you tonight is what was presented to you back in August. So we're not going to go through a formal presentation like we did at the August workshop. I will kind of briefly go through what's included in this plan as kind of a reminder for you and also for the public. The concept plan, it includes a landscape and hardscape plan for this general area and for the medians. Of notes, approximately 120 trees are included as part of this plan to be put back into this corridor, either within the medians or directly adjacent to the road. It includes a native and wildflower prairie with a walking trail east of, or west, I'm sorry, of the road itself. We'll also look for some educational opportunities along that nature trail to provide people that choose to use it. It's identified some limited banner locations for us to put banners up. It includes entry monuments at both the north and south entrance into the park, in addition to kind of a reimagining of the park's main entrance off of Yorktown Parkway instead of off of Central Avenue. And you'll remember that main entrance is conceptually is an arch gateway to kind of really communicate that you're entering that park. That is included in this plan. That entrance will be at that dam road. It includes pedestrian scale lighting around Lake George, a berm with a kind of a seat wall around it just south of the dam road, south of the main entrance into the park. Direct connection from Yorktown Parkway into the dog parks. It's also, that plan also calls for a bike maintenance station around that same area as well for pedestrians and bicyclists that are using that existing pathway. A fountain in Lake George, and then notably, it doesn't show up, very important to staff, but doesn't really show up in the plan itself, is those preliminary cost estimates do include a year of warranty and maintenance for all of the landscape that's included in that. So not directly represented in that plan, but a major part of what we've got planned. Outside of the plan itself, we do have budgeted, or the preliminary cost estimates is approximately $665,000. We do anticipate being able to design the bid package in a way that might represent some options or some potential savings. It is budgeted to be funded through the street improvement plan or the street improvement fund, and those funds are available at that amount. So for you tonight is just to accept this concept master plan, which basically ties up this first phase of this project.
Mr. Mayor?
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
The entryway coming off of Yorktown into the dog park, is that a sidewalk or a driveway?
So the entryway coming from the dog, or from off of Yorktown to the dog parks?
Yes.
So it'll be some sort of sidewalk. We haven't finalized the surfacing yet.
Okay. All right, yeah. That was my main question.
Is there a preference, I mean, to be
No,
concrete or more natural?
I'd rather it, be a sidewalk type, but concrete or mulch or whatever. But I was just hoping it wasn't another driveway.
No, it'll be pedestrian sidewalk.
It does look like one of those right, left.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, and that's what we kind of brought that concept out when we were kind of discussing this holistically, is, to get away from the right angle sidewalks, to kind of make them a little bit more leisurely in terms of the angles that they take. So that's what's represented there, is you can take it from the north or the south.
Yeah, the whole connection kind of threw me, so it didn't say sidewalk or driveway or something, so.
Yeah, it'll be a pedestrian
I like the
walkway.
looks of that.
Did you say you like the looks of that?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, the sidewalk, the way it splits, you mean? Yeah. I would say that it's taken a long time to get here. There was quite a bit of pushback against working on the road in this area anyway, which was definitely warranted discussion. And I feel like if you look at the concept in front of us, I feel like we listened to everything, all those that were directly against it, or those that were just, they didn't want to ruin the aesthetics of the park. I think this addresses all of that, as well as that opening up additional trails for us to use for bikes and walking and other things, and a fountain and entrance. So I think that everyone that worked on this has done an exceptional job, and I've seen this as nothing but a positive thing for all of Andover. And I do think that it's great that we did listen to those that had, pretty big challenges with this and addressed everything that we could. And it shows in this. This is beautiful. Thank you for everyone that worked on this.
It
And I
does. I
think
agree
people don't-
wholeheartedly. It's very nice.
Yeah, it does. I think people don't know that we actually, what was it, 3 or 4 meetings that we were all split up with 3 of us only. So we all came up with our own concepts, and then we brought all those concepts together and put them all together. So that was pretty unique, and a lot of them were the same. So that was kind of a unique meetings concept we had.
Yeah, well done. On that note, Mr. Mayor, if I may move to accept the Yorktown Parkway Streetscape Conceptual Master Plan as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Where am I at? 11.2, Engineering, Design, and Construction Phase Service Agreement.
So now the phase one, the conceptual phase, so we've tied that off. It's complete. It's now, we now need to start on phase two, which is actually taking a conceptual design that you see in front of you and actually doing the actual design work behind it. So the staff is recommending that we retain MKEC Engineering for this second phase, for the design and construction phase. So there's 2 different work products that are going to come out of this, if you will. So the actual design to produce the documents that are required in order to bid the project. So instead of saying 60 trees, this will actually specify species of trees and diameter of tree and planting location. So getting the real hard detail so that it can be bid and so it can be constructed. The second part of that is the construction phase services, which is more or less inspection or observation. So when this is actually in construction, those the field work required will be parts of the scope of this agreement as well. So this agreement, the design services are to be paid in a lump sum. So the city will pay MKC Engineering to actually design the improvements at $66,432. The construction phase or the inspection observation is to be paid for the services actually used. So they will bill us hourly, dictated by the hourly terms that are set in that agreement, and a not to exceed amount of $44,288. So total, the cost of this agreement is $110,720, which represents right at 20% of what the estimated construction cost is, which is in line with what industry standards are for these services. This $110,700, the cost of this agreement is part of that $665,000 of the estimate. It's not in addition to. So this is a portion of that. I'd answer any other questions that you may have.
Lance, when we talk about lump sum, is that paid for at the beginning or the end?
So they will bill us throughout the process until we won't pay 100% of that until the design is complete. So no, we won't pay that up front all at once.
Thank you.
So I guess I have a couple quick questions. One is it normal for us to not go out for bid on this part of a project? We normally go for bid and we're not this time. And so what's the answer to that first? Is it normally we go out for bid and we're just not doing it this time? I know we love MKC. They've done exceptional for us. Are we doing the right thing?
There's really not a ton of precedent for what we're doing for a city at large project like this. I think the parallel that I can make to you specifically is a lot of times we will recommend to retain the platting engineer in plats. So it's fairly analogous to that situation that they've done the concept plan. But yes, that is always an option. You can take that concept plan and then you can bid the actual design and construction inspection work. It's an option.
Okay. And the second thing is the idea, which we're not doing here specifically, but for those that haven't worked with projects, and usually it's building projects, but like the idea of design build versus design in a different company actually doing the construction, which is what we're doing here, because they're designing it, but then looking over the construction as it's happening. And we're lucky in that, I think, because then they keep their eye on things and they make sure everything's done the right way, and it's not them physically doing it, so they're not going to overlook things just because it's their own company. We have looked at design build projects in the past, and when we do that again, I'm just going to bring it up now, we need to really think about that, if that's the right thing, if it will have the best result for us. I don't think we've had any problems with it, but you don't have the extra set of eyeballs like we do on this project when that happens. So I just want to throw that out for everybody in the future. So what do you guys think about not going out for bid versus?
Is there a reason why we didn't go out for bid? Is it just because MKEC did the conceptual part?
That's part of it, definitely, is that there's some symmetry there, some efficiencies to be gained on transitioning from a conceptual phase to the actual hard design phase. But additionally, there are checks and balances in here, and that's one reason why we look at what that percentage proposed in the agreement is as compared to estimated construction costs. Every engineering agreement we bring you, whether it's for a city at large project like this or any of the subdivision projects, we always track to see how much these engineering agreements are compared to the construction. And that's what I like in terms of industry standards. Typically, when you're looking at a design cost of 12% of the construction, that's going to be very similar to what you're going to get from any design engineering firm, or 8% of inspection. You're not going to see a significant amount of savings from those numbers, whether if you bid it and if you solicit bids from other engineering firms. So we check those to make sure they're in line with what other engineering firms are offering for other projects, and this is right in line with those. If there was a concern with those numbers, first we would deal with that from a staff perspective with the proposing firm before it even came to you. And if we had any concerns with it, we would more than likely recommend that we do bid it.
And just to be clear, I mean, like we said, when a subdivision gets done and a developer retains their engineer, so it's essentially the exact same thing as that. But to Mike's point, you all have spent a lot of time with this engineering firm, and they intimately understand what you all want to see. So I think you would lose potentially a lot of ground that you've been working on for 3 to 4 months at this point. If you were to bid it out and choose anyone else at this point, you'd have to redo a lot of that work.
Just like when we have our planning architects, the Fosters, you know, they do a lot of pre-work for us, and then they finish the book for us, which is a different contract. So I don't have any problem with retaining MKEC for this.
And the other thing that I'll mention is like what our purchasing policy says, which we just recently revised and adopted. For professional services, so engineering, design, and construction inspection, do not have to be competitively bid for those very reasons that we've been talking about. Doesn't mean we don't carefully analyze the costs associated with them.
Is MKAC also the company that's doing this exact kind of work for us for the potential ball fields at 13th Street?
We don't have any
Yeah,
sort
we're
of
not at that
design
point.
work currently for any project at 13th Street.
We have an RFP that is being considered by your Parks Rec Advisory Board for a park master plan, and 13th Street is a part of that. I do not know if they submitted an application for that or not,
Yep.
but that decision hasn't been made yet. The PRAB meets tomorrow night for the first time. They'll receive their packets at that time, and they'll meet in 2 more weeks to make a decision on who to recommend to you all for that.
Okay, I just wonder if, and I'm not saying we're doing this at all, but I just wonder if we need to watch out for the trap of falling in love with one design or one engineering firm and then not even looking at anybody else. They're doing a great job, don't get me wrong, but is it the best fiscal use of the dollars for the city if we quit bidding on things?
So the Parks and Recreation System Master Plan RFP that we published, I think last month, we had 8 responses to. MKEC was part of a team in one of those proposals. So we do have, that Parks and Recreation System Master Plan is a conceptual, it's a master plan document covering our entire system, but we also very specifically asked for a site-specific design or redesign of 13th Street Sports Park. So to answer the second part of that question. But yes, they will meet, your advisory board will meet tomorrow night for the first time. We will introduce the topic of this RFP and this master plan, and then we will meet again on October 14th, where they will actually make a recommendation to you for a consultant selection to complete that.
And we'll see that recommendation come to a workshop, right?
For the Parks and Recreation, that will come to you. I was initially planning on having that recommendation just come to you at a council meeting when you approve the agreement. But if you would rather discuss that at a workshop, we can accommodate that.
I would rather see that instead of us just seeing it, come to a council meeting where we don't have, I think we'll have more conversations on it during a workshop.
Yeah, we would, so again, like our intention was to try to get that thing off the ground as quickly as possible. So I don't know, I can't speak for what the November or the September workshop looks like as of now. It might be a late one. October, yes, October workshop. That was last night, right? So yeah, it might be a late night in October if you want to add it in October, but I would like to try to keep it on track schedule-wise, but we can accommodate that.
That seems appropriate.
Yeah, it's a new board, it's an advisory board, and I don't feel comfortable voting on something that we haven't discussed when we have a brand-new advisory board. Just now they're gonna, not approve, but one step off of approving contracts that we just vote on that day.
To be clear, the advisory board is just that, an advisory board, and you all can have as much rich conversation as you want at a council meeting, right now, like you're doing right now. So we can do that. It's just going to push it to the end of October instead of being able to move it a little more quickly. But it will come to you, and they don't have the authority to authorize any bids or any purchases. They are making advice to you to make a determination.
Okay, I guess I had thought the advisory board was more a board that's big idea on things that we're going to be looking at or thoughts of things to do with the parks. I guess I didn't really quite understand that they're all the way to the point of almost being a planning committee where they're actually planning what's going to happen and bring to us whatever they planned and we approve it. That's what it sounds like you just said that we're going to have at our next meeting is you're going to approve this company to be whatever they decided on. I don't know if I'm okay with that at this point.
Technically,
maybe I'm wrong here, but that's just what I gathered from.
No, and I go back to the meeting and when you all authorized the release of that request for proposals be sent out, at that time, we identified the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board as the selection committee. What they're really kind of feeling in, like, the last RFQ we did for city engineering services, you all selected or nominated a selection committee that mainly comprised of a couple council members and a group of staff. They're basically filling that role of actually reviewing these with staff. Staff's going to present the actual technical review of them according to the evaluation criteria that was in those RFPs. We're going to have that lengthy discussion. That lengthy discussion will then be forwarded to you in the form of their minutes as a recommendation, and you'll see those discussions, but it's purely there as another review of citizens to offer you a focused citizen group to advise you, not make decisions. But they will be heavily involved in the citizen feedback process when we actually start developing this master plan. So we thought it was appropriate to get them in on the front end. Advice only to you guys, recommendations only.
And that is pretty typical. Very, very rarely do you all, as a body of 7, look at RFP responses. Usually one of you, and when in this case, the mayor's a member of the PRAB, but usually one or maybe 2 of you are on a committee, but very, very rarely do all 7 of you sit through that pretty intensive grading, selection, listening to presentations, things like that. That is something we usually kind of subcommittee out because it's pretty tedious, typically.
I'm down with it being in a workshop so we can talk about it and maybe get a little more grasp for what that committee's roles are, as well as if we're looking at a park master plan. I guess I feel like we were elected to not head that committee per se, but absolutely be the ones that start the direction or the vision of what it would need to accomplish And then maybe that committee would be one that would say, okay, well, here's the ways that we imagine that we could accomplish that. I don't think that, I don't know, that's just how I would think that that's why we were elected, is to make sure that we manage the growth of the city, and obviously Parks is part of that. So I'm having a little consternation, I guess, right now on, or maybe misunderstanding or lack of understanding of what exactly the advisory board's role is for the parks. Okay.
They're simply to have a different set of eyes. They're not making any choices. It's a different set of eyes is exactly why I picked each person the way I picked them. I didn't want all chubby, bald-headed white guys. I didn't want all, I wanted people from all walks of life, all corners of town, to simply say, when someone puts something before them, to say, no different than planning and zoning, no different than site plan. Site plan says you gotta have this many bushes, and in my humble opinion, sometimes the bushes are poorly placed, poorly chosen. This is simply for one lady who works with handicapped children, so she can say, hey, you know, you're kind of leaving out handicapped children. Another guy was not born in the United States, so I thought, you know what, and he's an engineer for a large company. I thought he'd bring something different to the table. So the people I picked for this have a totally different, they come from different walks of life, so they're not stuck in one mode of, we have to have an arch on our swing set, or we have always done this with whatever. It's simply to say, to give advice on what they see as something missing from other parks that they've experienced, or something they've seen somewhere else in the country, or that's all it really is. It's just they're not making any decisions whatsoever. You know, it's not being mandated. It's just simply, these folks are going to say, you know what, this is what I've seen that I would like to see different. It's a different set of eyes to the same thing we want to do for this city, and they're all from, like I say, they all have different views than what we may have, and that's part of what I ran on. Is this city is sometimes been dictated by a handful of people on site plan and planning and zoning. We need a new set of eyes so we can get past the same old rut we've been in. And the park's great. There's nothing wrong with the park. But at the same time, we're entering into something big, and all of us don't have time to be a part of the minutia and the fine parts of it. That's all they simply are. It's not a takeover of government or anything like that. It's just some people that have a different set of eyes that may be able to see something that we can't see. You know, we just went through this with the disc golf, you know. So why not have a different set of eyes than just two?
I'm gonna say a couple things in response. One is, yeah, you picked the perfect people, I think, for that type of a role. Absolutely, no disagreement with that at all, and it's the appropriate reason to do it, and we need it. I do take offense to saying we've been in a rut, because I don't think we have, but that's fine.
But that's why this is America. We all have an opinion.
Sure. I would say, though, as far as elected, as I stated earlier, as far as the overall high-level view vision, that's our job. And so when you have an advisory board, at the very minimum, I'd want them to at least understand what we think, us elected officials think, because that's what we're elected for, is the long-term vision, and then they could take their eyes and, you know, so like you said, advise, modify, come up with better ideas. All of that's great. But I don't think that should be the group that does the master plan by themselves. I'm not saying that that's what's happening. I just wanted to make sure it was.
They are not. I don't know how we can make it any clearer. They are not doing anything nothing goes undone without coming through this body. I don't know how much simpler it could be, you know?
You called it a big idea group, Troy, a minute ago, and I think that's maybe appropriate. They come up with ideas, and then we take those ideas and move it into the right direction of where the city should be going.
And we might be saying the same thing. Ronnie might be saying the exact same thing. He probably is. I just didn't feel for some reason, based on the fact that they were going to come to us with RFPs that they've already waded through and provide us with that's what they were doing at that point. I felt like that was a few steps beyond. So that's why I brought it up.
I do appreciate your opinions, don't get me wrong.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we approve an agreement with MKEC Engineering, Inc., Wichita, Kansas, for engineering, design, and construction phase services for the Yorktown Parkway Streetscape Project in the not-to-exceed amount of $110,720.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Lance, real quick. I just had a quick question. So on the, I mean, when we were talking about the bids, the conceptual design was bid out, correct?
No, we actually proposed that to you to negotiate directly with MKEC to
Okay.
do the conceptual. And that was largely based upon some synergy there with some understanding of aesthetic would be south of Douglas, that first phase of Yorktown Parkway and some of the development happening directly adjacent to it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. 12, sewer line rehabilitation proposals.
It's not quite as exciting of a subject as parks, but it is very important. And for 19 years, we've been lining out what we call lining our old clay tile and maybe substandard is not the correct word, but not the most desirable style of pipes that were put in earlier in the past century. And we've been doing a process called CIPP, with secured in place pipe, and they line it. And the most simplest way to put it is basically it ends up with a PVC style pipe on the inside of it. They're now saying that's good for about 100-year life cycle, which I think is basically just saying they just don't know how long it's going to last, but it's going to last 100 years. So we're pretty happy with it. In the memo, it talks about the fact that we're pretty sure that it's delayed the need for plant expansions. It's lowered our overall cost of treatment in the plant because we have less water to treat, because we're getting less infiltration coming in, because it seals up cracks in the pipes and other areas of things where stuff can infiltrate. We have pretty much done all the 8-inch lines in town, which is the vast majority of sewer lines in a town. We are moving into, I think this one is going into some 15-inch lines, if I remember right.
18.
And those are more of your, as you would think of a highway or a street system, think of a collector style or arterial style streets, and the 8 inches would be like your residential streets that feed into it, exactly how it works. And so we're getting into those, so it's a little more expensive per foot because you're treating a lot more size of pipe, and also you have to deal with a lot larger flow of water or sewage while you're doing the process. But we're in that process now. There's less of that to go. We are excited where we're headed with this project, and if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to try to answer them.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to authorize staff to accept the proposal Utility Maintenance Contractor LLC, Wichita, Kansas, at a cost of $85,450.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Traffic signal, bid award, 13-1.
So, excuse me, I clicked on the wrong item, sorry about that. So if you'll remember earlier in the year, we asked for your permission to go out to retain actually an engineer to do design work on a traffic signal area and end of a road. You guys authorized that, council authorized that. We then came to you with plans at a previous council meeting. You authorized those plans and go out for bid. And we went out for bid, and we're now at the point where we're wanting to bring you the low bid award for this and ask for your approval on it, with Philip Southern being the low bid. As you'll notice, a lot of times we have at least 3 bids, but there's only so many traffic construction companies in the area, so that's why there's only 2 on this particular case. Philip Southern has done a lot of traffic signals in the area, and they have a lot of experience, and the bid is lower than our engineer's estimate. If you have any questions, I would be more willing. Oh, I would want to point out, I put it in there, but I do want to point out, there's a long delay on the poles. So we're going to award this, but this traffic signal is not going to be going in this year.
On the what, bolts?
Poles.
Poles.
Poles. There's a long delay on them. Hopefully, I got some news that it might be not quite as bad, but I would suspect maybe it'll be June before we actually have them complete operation.
Almost a year, wow.
The construction time on it doesn't take that long. Once I get the poles in, it'll go pretty quick. But
Refresh my memory, are there sidewalks or crosswalks the entire square?
yeah, yes, well, not crosswalks currently going across the end of a road.
Okay, just across Harris?
Yes.
Okay.
Sideways.
But there is actuating buttons and for crosswalks on the poles themselves.
And then as far as, is there a camera that watches people coming and then that will signal the change in the light, the way we have maybe
So
at Douglas?
this one is going to utilize the radar and camera
Yeah.
Okay.
solution, so you'll have dual detection.
I just hope it does, because there's time of day when Douglas light, I get stuck through 3 or 4 signals before it ever does the left turn that I can actually turn. We've talked about it before, and it has something to do with the sun hitting it at a weird time of day.
So
I think that's Douglas. Central. Douglas.
US 54 has a problem with that, and we have previous council meeting authorized us to go ahead and get those changed out, and the material's been ordered. It has shown up, and we are actually needing to wait now until the left turn lane gets opened back up from the construction cones to be able to do that work. So
Good news.
as soon as that's done, we'll be ready to go, and we'll get that changed out. Hopefully that fixes that.
Very good.
I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
No, I said very good, thanks.
Is there a walkway through that medium strip right there? I can't even remember. I've been by it 1,000 times. Going across from,
On the south side of the road,
yes, sir.
I don't believe there's a walkway through there.
Mr. Mayor, I move to accept the low bid from Phillips Southern Electric Company of Wichita, Kansas for traffic signal installation at Andover Road in Harry, and then not to exceed amount of $203,780.40, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Uniform, 14-1, Uniform Public Offense Code, adopting ordinance. Chief Keller.
Mr. Mayor, if you'll allow me, since we have some new members that have never done this before on the council, every year our legislative body in Topeka adopts, they start meeting in January of the year and they adopt new state laws, new statutes throughout the spring and early summer. And then our league municipality puts those changes into 2 books. One of them is called the Standard Traffic Offense Code, and the other one is the Uniform Public Offense Code. They put these in the books and distribute them to the cities, making it easier for the cities, instead of having us change all our ordinances that were impacted by the state laws changes, we can just do one ordinance to adopt this book, and then this becomes our law every year. This year, the Standard Traffic Offense, which is commonly called the STO or STO, had really virtually no changes to it. So we didn't bother purchasing the books, and you don't have an ordinance in front of you to adopt it. We're going to stay under the 2019 book because it's the same laws. However, the Uniform Public Offense Code, they did make, although they were very minor changes this year, we went ahead and got the books, and before you, JT has prepared an ordinance to adopt it so that we can make this our, basically the laws for in Andover. And I'll let JT add anything he would like.
The only thing I would add is, Councilman Berry pointed out that in my summary of the changes, we did not include that the UPOC adds a 10.29. And I feel bad about that because I have to summarize these and compare them all to last year's and do that all well before the meeting. So, there is a new section 10.29 which was not summarized in my memo, for which I apologize, which allows the city to enforce a public health order issued by a county health official. It would allow the city to enforce that in municipal court as opposed to bringing
state court charges for that. All of these changes coincide with state law. And so what we try to do is to make the law in the city of Andover in most respects match what the state law is, but then allow those to be charged in the municipal court. I want to apologize for missing that one change, and I know it's been recently incendiary for some places, so I didn't want you to think that I was trying to hide that from you. I was not. I actually just missed it in reviewing the summary. But in adopting the UPOC, you would then have essentially the same public offense code as all cities that adopt the UPOC. You do have a couple of uniquenesses in the city of Andover that we maintain. One, for instance, is in the UPOC, barbed wire is illegal in the city limits. And we do allow some barbed wire in the city limits to protect assets of the city and on 6-foot security fences. And so with the slight difference that previous councils have decided, another example is the Uniform Public Offense Code bans all bow and arrows, and there's been a question as to whether or not that includes the firing of a crossbow, and so crossbows are included in Andover's version for not allowing discharge within the city limits. But with the exception of those changes, every year you've pretty much incorporated the new Uniform Public Offense Code that aligns itself with the new state laws that are passed. And I try to answer any questions. I thought Chief did a great job.
So you're saying bow and arrow you can't do in the city limits?
No, you can't shoot a bow and arrow in the, there's lots of things in here that will surprise people. You can't shoot a bow and arrow in the city limits unless it is in such a place of confinement to where the arrow could not escape from the discharge.
So somebody's backyard, it would be illegal?
That's correct, as would be a BB gun, because that one frequently comes up.
Okay.
So it basically has to be in an enclosed environment such as a building or?
Has to be an enclosed environment where the projectile cannot escape from the point of discharge.
Good to know.
That's funny you should bring that up, that BB gun's always the most interesting one.
Thank you, guys.
So do we need a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt an ordinance enacting the 2020 Uniform Public Offense Code 36th edition with the modifications contained therein and amending Chapter 13, Article 1, Sections 13-101 and 13-102 of the Code of the City of Andover, Kansas.
Second.
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 All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
15-1, Public Works Purchase, Utility Vehicle.
Mr. Mayor and Council, earlier in the year, staff presented to Council some items for Sparks grants. Council reviewed and approved those, and then those went to the to the county commissioners and on to the state for approval. And since that time, we've started purchasing those items that were approved in that Sparks grant. One of those items is UTV. The UTV we requested to allow us to split our staff up a little bit more and not have to have them riding in the same vehicle all the time, and give us the more options in that aspect when we're out in the park and so forth. So in the process of evaluating the UTV and options we were looking at, we added in a front PTO option to that to allow us to better maintain the large, we're just getting more and more of these 10-foot wide trails that we have to maintain. And the piece of equipment that we were utilizing for that let's just say it's not working really well for us. So we identified this as a way we could address that at the same time. So we did go out for bid on this item. We did request 4 bids. Two did submit bids. We also advertised on our city website per our new purchasing policy. Of the 2 bids, one did not include the front PTO attachment. That was the low bid as far as dollar-wise by like $285, but they didn't include the PTO. The lowest bidder that met all the specifications was the Kubota from Wichita Tractor. Staff is, this is higher than what was in the Sparks grant, by the way, in the original Sparks grant request. However, we've been told that we can utilize savings in other items that we had. We did have savings in the light towers that we bought, and also an air purification system for the HVAC systems that far exceeds the overage of this. Staff is requesting to you award to the lowest bidder that meets all the specifications, which is Wichita Tractor. If you have any questions, I'd be more than willing to try to answer those.
Rick, when you say, it went over bid, is that something then you take to Donna and Donna says, yes, we can get the funds, or?
So I'm tracking all the dollars that, the funds that I'm responsible for in the Sparks grant, and we're, I forget, 60,000 under or something like that. So this is like 8 to 10,000 over. I can't remember the exact dollar amount. So we're still way under, and this money actually is all coming from the Sparks funds. So we just spend it and then get reimbursed for it. So I didn't really go to Donna on this particular case because it's money that will come back to us shortly.
And that's probably a good update for me to let you all know that the way we are getting reimbursed is we have to spend 30% of our total allotment, which was just over $500,000. And once we have proof that we've spent that, we provide them the receipts. Then they will send us an ACH for that amount. Then we need to get back up to the next 30% of the award, and then they'll, whoops, there goes my pen. They'll give us the next allotment, 30%, they'll give us the next, and then they'll give us the final 10% balance at the end. And we are on a time clock now, so I've been pushing staff to get those purchases made because we want to get as much as we can. By the first week in December, if it's not spent, it does go back to Butler County, who makes a determination if they have a way to spend it. If not, it goes back to Kansas.
Rick, have you bought everything, the lights, and, has everything been purchased?
So we have a couple items that I thought were going to be easier items, but with COVID, sometimes buying things is a little harder than you think. We were buying a tent, whatever reason those have been in kind of short supply, large commercial style tents. We identified one that we were able to utilize, but then their website has been down, and we've been talking to them. They assure us it'll be up soon. But generally, we're pretty close to the end. There's a tent. There's one other small item. We're trying to order a temperature scanner, freestanding temperature scanner. These are smaller items, though. These are really the small items. The big stuff has been taken care of.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we authorize the purchase of the 2020 Kubota utility vehicle in the amount of $23,400 from McCullen Enterprises, DBA Wichita Tractor of Wichita, Kansas.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
16-1, executive session, land acquisition, KSA 75-4319, B6.
Mr. Mayor,
You wanna-
no, go ahead.
Okay, I'd make a motion to recess an executive session for preliminary discussions relating to acquisition of real estate per KSA 75-4319B6, as you said. Session to include governing bodies, city attorney, city administrator, community development director, and assistant city administrator. The open meeting will resume in 10 minutes, about 8:10.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
It's like, oh, I know that they're watching, they can't hear.
You said it. Oh, my God.
I can't hear that attorney.
Yeah, we've got them too, and I had reached out to Becky. I don't know what they outlined at all.
Well, I
know
don't
they have on
remember.
certain,
Yeah.
certain things, but I don't know about. some of them are going to be doing it as floatings and stuff.
Right, and I told her it's gonna,
We also have some.
Okay.
Really? What if one of the police department friends, pit bulls are illegal in Mangus, and one of them, on occasion, there was one police, I think it was in Stafford, Kansas, that they bought a pit bull for the video came out. Ended up, it affected his own. But there are no, as far as I know.
well, anyway, I tagged the police department on the Facebook post.
I mean, it's 8 o'clock at night, Nikki probably, because I need to buy that. My guess would be probably not.
I think it would, because how would you know where they're gonna, I mean, like I told her, I said they go to different locations to do different training. and-
They spread out.
Yeah. So.
You're gonna watch your fireworks this weekend?
Huh? Am I gonna come watch the fireworks this weekend, maybe? It might be pretty full. There might be quite a few people.
Spread out, you don't have to come tomorrow.
No, I know. Are you shooting them off?
When do you buy that next week? Sorry, this Saturday.
Third, Saturday.
No.
Oh, the,
Canine stuff, does it start next week?
well, does it?
It's my brother's wedding. It's funny too, because it's my sister. We both made it. We long hair, and then she's literally intense. It was so funny too.
It doesn't matter.
Oh my god.
I told her that.
Way shorter than my guy.
Starts
Next week. Yeah, be next week.
Starts October 5th.
I don't know, because do you have straight hair? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So this is who it is. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, my hair is straight. Yeah.
She always responds.
How about the dog?
Exactly, but, yeah.
Making sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's either working.
For this COVID stuff to be over. When is it, tomorrow or Thursday?
First one since February. I finally said, you know what, I don't get that close.
No, but it, you know, it's such a struggle because no matter what you do, somebody's gonna criticize.
Well, they're already doing it. I mean, the senior center now is open back up and they're having people in for lunch and stuff, and they're social distancing. And they had a guest speaker today, so they're already doing it.
Yeah.
The only non-person or whatever was me.
Right.
And now we're gonna do it. When I went to that photo, so finally today.
Well, if you have a mask on and stuff, but still. I don't really have in-person meetings, this kind of stuff, and I said, where are we gonna have it? I just said, we, as a chamber, I can't risk. I can't do that.
Braves over at Small had the 0.27 thing.
Right.
I was there.
Do they have a lot of people?
Oh. I walked in and fell out.
Yeah. doesn't make sense.
I got you over there.
Yeah.
Got to fit myself.
But you know, Keller just doesn't have meeting spaces available. I'm not gonna pay $50 an hour for raised place. I'm not gonna. For small.
Oh, you ready?
The other side.
Oh, really?
Yeah, $50 an hour. Yeah, and then, the lodge is kind of empty.
Had an annual supervisory we did it at Clinton.
Oh, Flint Hills.
National.
National.
Last week we did it at Fetch.
Yeah.
I knew you guys had to.
I got it for free. Now, I had to buy lunch. And we just went in, ordered off the menu, no prices. And they, but it was.
David.
Yeah, oh, no, they were tremendous. It was a little room, they let us use their, what they call their ladies' knuckle room or.
Yeah.
And it was just big enough, we had 8 chairs, we had 8 of us.
Yeah.
And we were in there all day, we, during lunch, we went out, and then. For, you figure we got out of it, for like, well, probably,
Yeah, David. I need to come say hi to Susan, because I'm not staying home.
You're going home?
I'm gonna go watch the baby.
There's already 883 comments, it's only been on for 7 minutes. Of the debate, maybe the comments or the other stuff. How are you? Yeah. Yeah. What do? Just stop. This Mike's always live.
Oh, my gosh.
She came in.
Make a motion that we return from executive session.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. All right, member items.
I do not have anything tonight. Thank you,
None
Mayor.
tonight's for me either.
No items.
I want to make clear that I was not, and it's probably sounded like I was not criticizing planning and zoning and/or site plan, just simply stating that sometimes a new set of eyes helps to move things in a different direction. So I just want to clarify that. If I bothered anybody with that, I do apologize. So, all right.
Ooh, I do remember one quick thing. Shop local, the pumpkin sales are open. I see Marietta is open. I know Applejack isn't quite Andover local, but there's another pumpkin patch there, so anyway.
Cool.
No items.
No items.
Mr. Mayor, could I mention one really quick thing? There will be a drive-through flu clinic at 13th Street Sports Park on October 13th, which is the date of your next meeting, from 4 to 6 p.m. So you could drive through, get your shot, and drive right on over for the city council meeting, but want to make sure the public knows you don't even have to get out of the car. Public health officials are saying that flu shots are especially important this year. A real fear would be COVID and flu, bad season together could be pretty difficult. So get your flu shot.
What's the date on that, and then what's the age?
Tuesday, October 13th, and I believe they recommend everyone over the age of, you'd know better than me, 1 or 2, but most children get that flu shot. I don't know about active versus inactive. It's been a while since I've looked at that, but.
Who's giving them?
Butler County Health Department, it is free.
Thank you.
All right.
That's cool.
No.
Mr. Mayor, if you allow me, we learned this information right after the event memo went out, so it wasn't included in your packet, but we're kind of excited. The young lady that you swore in the last time, Officer Catherine Russell, she was named last week as the class president for her at the academy. I think it's the first time we've ever had an Andover officer be class president.
Man, very cool.
So
Good pick.
we're kind of excited about that, and we'll put information on our Facebook outs, but we're waiting for the academy to release it.
It's pretty cool.
Okay, one more thing. I know you want to get out of here. We're doing fireworks. We were supposed to do GAD this weekend. We're not doing GAD, but we are doing fireworks. So Saturday night here from Central Park, there won't be like a show or an MC or a reason to really get out of your car per se, but park up at Central Park, park up at Central campus over at the high school and middle school. We spent more money on fireworks to make it a bigger and better show, so hopefully you can enjoy that. And earlier in the afternoon, there is a theatrical presentation on the amphitheater stage. I always mess up the name of it. Homer, I'm going to put you on the spot. Piggy.
People putting it on?
It's,
Show the name of the show?
yeah, Piggy.
Elephant and Piggy.
Elephant and Piggy. I knew there was a piggy involved. So make sure
I
to
am
bring your
not in
family
the
out to
show.
the park on Saturday.
I do not represent either of the characters.
No, you don't.
Oh, my goodness.
Are we blocking off any roads in Central Park here? Are we allowing parking, City Hall, or?
You can park in Central Park. We are blocking off Yorktown starting at noon. At noon through the end of the show in order to be, we're going to actually have the fireworks set up on Yorktown. So for safety reasons, it'll close at noon.
People can't park at the library and City Hall?
Yes, sir. And we're not going to have traffic monitoring or anything like that. Just first come, first serve.
Is it the show and then straight into the fireworks?
I don't know. Yeah, there'll be a gap on that. You also can park in the area where we would normally have the carnival, yes, and out by the dog park. There'll be a parking back there also.
Cool.
All right. That it?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Susan, I have a question for you before you leave. The mayor and I were having problems with our agenda notes.